Isabella hated the cold, and October had a way of sinking into her bones like a bad memory she couldn't shake off. The trees were already stripped bare, the ground damp from days of rain, and the wind smelled like something old. But still, she had said yes. Because when your best friends beg you to come to a Halloween campout in the middle of nowhere, and you've spent the last 3 months dodging life with sarcasm and cheap wine, saying no feels like another kind of surrender. So here she was, standing at the edge of a forest that looked far too alive for her liking, clutching a thermos she hadn't even filled with coffee, and pretending this wasn't a terrible idea. "Come on, Bella," Louisa called from ahead, her laughter echoing through the trees as the others hoisted backpacks and coolers from the cars. "You said you wanted a break from the city. This is it. Fresh air. No signal. No bosses. Just us and the wilderness." Isabella rolled her eyes, but followed. She always followed, even when something inside her whispered no. Especially when it whispered no. The hike into the forest wasn't long, but it was dense. The kind of path that hadn't been maintained in years. Vines clawed at their ankles, leaves crunched with ominous finality underfoot, and every now and then, she thought she heard movement deeper in the trees. Not just animals. Breathing. Watching. "You okay?" asked Naughty, falling back to walk beside her. "You've got that about to bolt face." "I'm fine," Isabella muttered, swallowing the shiver crawling up her spine. Just cold. But it wasn't just the cold. It was the way the forest seemed to pulse. Like a thing with a heartbeat. By the time they reached the clearing, the sun was bleeding out behind the hills, leaving only a wash of burnt orange and bruised violet across the sky. They set up their tents, lit a fire, passed around drinks and stories, the kind that got exaggerated with every telling. Isabella smiled when she was supposed to, laughed when everyone else did, but her eyes kept drifting to the treeline. Something was wrong. The night felt too quiet. Until it didn't. Until the snap of a branch made everyone turn. Until the fire flickered like it had been slapped by the wind. "Probably a deer," said one of the guys, but even he didn't sound convinced. "Yeah," Isabella agreed, her voice thin. "Probably." But later, after the marshmallows were gone and the drinks had slowed, she stood, claiming she needed to pee, and stepped into the dark alone. Not far. Just enough to get away from the circle of light and laughter. Just enough to breathe. The trees closed around her like a secret. Every step felt louder than it should have. She paused near a slope, looked up at the moon, swollen and perfect, and told herself to turn back. But that's when she heard it. The sound that split the night. A low, guttural cry that wasn't human, wasn't animal. It was both. And it was calling. She froze. The sound came again, closer this time. And then movement. Fast. Powerful. Something emerging from the dark. A figure. Female. Barefoot. Wild-haired. Her skin streaked with dirt and blood, and something that looked like ritualistic paint. Her eyes, golden. Not hazel, not amber. Golden. They shimmered beneath the moonlight, ancient and endless. Isabella couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Could only stare as the woman stepped closer. Not like a person, but like a predator, fluid, calculating, utterly certain of her strength. The woman tilted her head back and howled. A long, shattering sound that echoed through the trees, rattling the air like a warning. But it wasn't a warning. It was a name. Her name. Isabella. It wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a call. It was a claim. Isabella gasped, not just from fear, but from the strange heat blooming in her chest. A heat that made no sense. And then howls answered. From deep within the forest. Dozens. Maybe more. Surrounding her. The woman smiled. There was blood on her teeth. "Found you," she whispered. And Isabella's world split wide open. Isabella ran. She didn't remember her legs moving or the scream that ripped from her throat, but suddenly the trees were blurring past her, thorns slicing her skin, her heartbeat crashing in her ears like thunder. Behind her, the howls kept coming, not angry, not hungry, but something far more terrifying. Welcoming. Like they'd been waiting for her. like they knew her. The forest seemed to twist, to close in. Every path she tried folding back on itself like a trap made of bark and fog. Her breath turned to fire in her chest, her limbs aching, panic clawing up her throat. She didn't look back. She couldn't. If she looked, she might see those eyes again. Those golden, inhuman eyes. And worse, she might feel that pull again. That impossible heat. But just as she thought she'd outrun whatever nightmare she'd stumbled into, a shadow moved in front of her. Not running. Not hiding. Waiting. Celine. She stepped into view like she was part of the forest itself, her body painted in streaks of mud and blood, her muscles tensed like a predator mid-hunt. But her eyes held something else now. Hunger. Grief. Recognition. Stop running, Celine said, her voice low, hoarse like it had been disused for years. You'll hurt yourself. Get away from me, Isabella hissed, trying to backpedal, but roots caught her ankle and she stumbled hard to the ground. Pain burst through her elbow, her hip. Celine flinched, not toward her, but like she felt the pain herself. I'm not here to harm you. Then what the hell do you want? Isabella snapped, blood on her lips, leaves tangled in her hair. Celine stepped closer, crouching with an ease that didn't seem human. You felt it. I know you did. Felt what? She spat, even as her body betrayed her, heat sparking again beneath her skin. That, Celine whispered, eyes fixed on hers. The bond. Isabella shook her head. I don't know you. But I know you, Celine said, softer now. I've known you since before I ever saw your face. Since the night I was born into the blood of my mother's pack. I dreamed of you, of your voice, your scent, and tonight, I heard your soul call mine. You're insane. Maybe, Celine admitted, but it doesn't change the truth. Then, without warning, she moved fast, impossibly fast, and Isabella gasped because she wasn't being attacked. She was being lifted, cradled, carried as if she weighed nothing through the trees, her cheek pressed to warm skin that smelled of smoke and earth, and something that made her chest ache. She should have screamed, fought, but something in her had gone quiet, watching, waiting. Celine moved with purpose, avoiding roots and rocks like she knew every inch of the forest. The deeper they went, the stranger everything became. Symbols carved into trees. Bones arranged in patterns on the ground. Stones glowing faintly with light that didn't come from the moon. Then, suddenly, a clearing opened, wide and sacred. An ancient ruin overgrown with moss and silence, at the center of which stood a massive stone altar beneath a twisted, gnarled tree. Its roots bled red. Isabella didn't know how she knew that, but she did. Celine laid her down carefully on a blanket of moss near the altar. This place, Celine said, was where my ancestors chose their queens. I'm not one of you, Isabella whispered, dizzy now with something that felt dangerously close to surrender. You are, Celine said. Or, you will be. I'm human. That doesn't matter. The bond chose you. I chose you. I didn't choose you. Celine stilled, her jaw tight. For the first time, her certainty cracked. No, she said, voice quiet. But you will. Isabella sat up. You think I'm just going to accept this? Some faded bullshit? Because you howled my name? I didn't howl it, Celine murmured. I felt it ignite in me, like fire through my blood. I didn't choose to say it. It broke out of me. Isabella's breath caught. Because somehow, absurdly, she believed her. There was something ancient in those words. Something raw. Celine turned, eyes scanning the trees. We don't have much time. The others are restless. Some don't want you here. Shocking, Isabella muttered. The human isn't popular. Celine looked back at her, fierce and aching all at once. Some of them think your weakness. That I've been infected by desire. But they don't understand what the bond means. They don't feel what I feel. And what do you feel? Celine's mouth parted, but for once, she didn't answer with words. She knelt, reached out, and her hand brushed Isabella's cheek. It was a touch that should have burned, should have been repulsive. But it wasn't. It was lightning and rain, heat and gravity. It was inevitable. This, Celine whispered. This is what I feel. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Isabella's breath stuttered. Her skin buzzed. Her heart didn't feel like hers anymore. It felt like it belonged to something wild. And then a new sound shattered the moment. Growls. Low. Threatening. From the edge of the clearing. Dozens of eyes blinking from the shadows. Wolves. Real ones. And some not quite. They've come to judge, Celine said, standing, body suddenly tense with authority. To decide if their queen is worthy. But I'm not. You will be, she said, turning, golden eyes now gleaming with something dangerous. Stand behind me, Isabella. And whatever you do, don't show fear. The eyes that stared from the trees were not human. Not entirely. Isabella felt them like heat against her skin, a collective breath held in the darkness, heavy with judgment. Her pulse thundered in her throat, her body screaming for flight, but Celine's voice echoed in her mind like a tether. Don't show fear. Easy to say, when you weren't the outsider surrounded by predators. But somehow, some wild part of Isabella listened. Her feet stayed rooted to the moss. Her breath calmed. Slowly, painfully, the wolves stepped out of the shadows one by one, and with every shape that emerged, her world warped further. Some were entirely lupin, massive creatures with black and silver coats, their eyes burning with a cruel intelligence. Others shifted mid-stride, half-human forms towering with rippling muscle and claws like obsidian, their bones cracking audibly as they changed. Isabella barely held down a scream. Celine moved in front of her like a shield, spine straight, chin high. No longer just a woman of force. A queen in exile, daring the pack to challenge her. She's the one, Celine announced, voice carrying like thunder through the clearing. The bond called her. I claimed her. A murmur rippled through the gathering. Not of celebration, of dissent. One figure stepped forward. Tall, male, scarred from shoulder to jaw, his eyes the same impossible gold as Celine's. His presence radiated dominance, second only to hers. The human doesn't belong, he growled. We follow the old blood. Only a wolf can rule beside the alpha. The bond chose her, Celine snapped, voice sharp. The blood recognizes her. Then let the blood decide, he hissed. Trial by moonlight. The pack growled in approval, low and unanimous. Celine's jaw clenched. It's too soon. You defied the order by bringing her, the male said. You owe us this. Celine turned, eyes locking with Isabella's. The fierceness faltered, just for a second. Beneath it, something like regret flickered. I can't stop them, she whispered. But I can prepare you. Prepare me? Isabella hissed. For what? What are they going to do? You'll be tested, Celine said, low and urgent. Physically. Spiritually. The pack believes only those with wolf blood can survive the trial. But I've seen it, the way your body responded. The way your soul howled. Celine, trust me. The words were sharp, desperate. Don't give in to fear. Let whatever is inside you answer. Before Isabella could respond, hands grabbed her arms. Cold. Calloused. She was dragged forward into the center of the clearing, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might explode. The stone altar loomed beside her, glowing faintly beneath the rising blood moon. A ring of the pack formed around her. Celine stepped back, expression carved from stone. The scarred male raised a blade, curved, old, etched with symbols she didn't recognize. By the moon, he declared, we call the blood to rise. If the human is chosen, she will survive. If she is not, she will return to the earth. What? Isabella choked. But before she could protest, he stepped forward and slashed the blade across her palm. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. Pain seared through her. She cried out, falling to her knees as her blood hit the ground, and the earth responded. The moss beneath her shivered. The altar pulsed. The gnarled roots of the tree groaned like a creature awakening. Her blood was sinking into the soil, and the soil was drinking. Then, without warning, the ground split open. A rift, wide and black and bottomless. Isabella was yanked down, the forest spinning as she fell, not through space, but through something else. She landed hard, not on dirt, but stone, cold and ancient. She was underground, alone. A cavern stretched around her, lit by red veins in the rock that pulsed like veins. The air was thick with incense and old magic. A voice echoed, not aloud, but inside her mind. "What are you?" She spun, heart racing. "Who's there?" "You bleed like prey, but you walk like one of us." "Why?" "I don't know what you want from me," she shouted, voice cracking. "I didn't ask for any of this." The walls trembled. Shapes emerged from the dark, wolves made of smoke and shadow, circling her. "Then prove you are more than what you were born. Shed your fear. Embrace the beast." "I don't have a beast," she cried. The shadows lunged. Teeth. Claws. Cold fury. Isabella screamed and raised her bleeding hand, and the moment her blood hit the stone, everything exploded in light. A roar, not hers, tore from her throat. Her back arched, eyes burning, bones twisting beneath her skin. Not a full shift, not even a half, but something moved inside her. Something vast, wild, awake. The wolves recoiled and bowed. The cavern fell silent. Her heart slowed. Her skin smoked with heat, but her body, her soul, had changed. When she looked at her hand, the cut was gone. And when she looked up, Celine was there, reaching down, her eyes wide, not with pride, but awe. "You called them," Celine whispered. "You commanded them." "I don't know what I did," Isabella said, breathless. "But I felt it, like something ancient rose in me." "It did," Celine said. "You passed." Isabella blinked. The clearing was back around her. The pack stood frozen, watching, silent, until one by one they knelt, even the scarred male, and Celine, the fiercest of them all, bowed her head last. "The moon chose," she said. "Our queen stands." Isabella couldn't move, could barely breathe, but her eyes met Celine's, and what passed between them now wasn't fear. It was hunger, power, and the terrifying beginning of something neither of them could escape. Isabella didn't sleep that night. Not really. Her body ached with exhaustion, but her blood sang too loud, too wild. Even in the quiet, the wind whispered in strange tongues, brushing her skin like a breath. She sat on the edge of a stone ledge just beyond the sacred clearing, knees hugged to her chest, the firelight from the camp behind her casting flickering shadows across the forest floor. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the cavern again, the red stone, the wolves of smoke, the way her voice hadn't come from her throat, but from something deeper. Something not entirely human. "You should rest," came Celine's voice behind her. Low, soft, dangerous in the way only she could be, like a storm whispering instead of roaring. "I can't," Isabella murmured without turning. "Every time I close my eyes I feel it, that power, like it's under my skin, like it wants more." "It will," Celine said, stepping closer. "It always does. Power never sleeps." "What is this? What's happening to me?" Celine sat beside her. Not too close. Not yet. But close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. "You awaken something," she said. "The trial doesn't just judge the soul. It reveals what was buried. What your ancestors may have forgotten, but your blood never did. So, I'm part wolf now." Isabella scoffed. "Is that it? Am I supposed to start howling at the moon?" "It's not that simple," Celine said. "And you're not turning. You're remembering. There's old blood in you, Isabella. From a line so far removed, no one remembered it still carried the mark. Until now." "So I'm a relic," she muttered. "A convenient loophole for your traditions." "No," Celine's voice dropped, low and razor-sharp. You are the exception that breaks them. Silence stretched, the kind that made the night feel too big. Isabella turned slowly to look at her. Celine's face was half lit by firelight, sharp bones, fierce eyes, a mouth that always seemed on the verge of command or confession. She wasn't beautiful in the delicate way Isabella was used to. She was undeniable. "When you howled my name," Isabella asked, voice barely a breath, "was it real? Or was it just instinct?" Celine's gaze locked with hers. No smile, no hesitation. It was truth. "Even though I'm human. Even then. Especially then." "Why me?" Isabella asked. "You could have any of them. Your pack would bow to your choice." "They would," Celine said. "But I wouldn't." The air thickened. The wind died. And for the first time since they met, Celine reached out without warning. Her fingers brushed Isabella's jaw, tilting her face gently until there was nowhere to look but into her eyes. "The bond doesn't care about bloodlines or logic," Celine said. "It chooses. And it chose you." Isabella didn't move. Her breath caught. Her skin burned where Celine touched her. And in that charged silence, something cracked between them. A dam, a wall, a restraint neither of them had named but both had obeyed. Until now. Celine leaned in. Not demanding. Not conquering. Just close enough for Isabella to make the choice. And she did. Her lips met Celine's in a kiss that was slow at first, exploratory, hesitant. But the moment their mouths connected, something shifted. The ground felt unsteady. Isabella's heart slammed against her ribs like it was trying to escape. Celine tasted like smoke and earth and something sweeter, something ancient. Isabella reached for her, fist in her shirt, pulling her closer, and Celine responded with a low, feral sound that sent heat flooding through her. They kissed like the world might end, like they had both been starving for years and only just now remembered what it meant to feel. When they finally broke apart, gasping, their foreheads pressed together, Celine's smile was a rare thing, soft, reverent, dangerous in its tenderness. "You have no idea what you've started," she whispered. "That makes two of us," Isabella said breathlessly. But the moment cracked again, not with desire, with dread. A howl. Far off. Too far to be their pack. Celine stiffened. "No," she whispered, standing quickly. "It's too soon." "What is?" "They weren't supposed to move yet. We had time." "Celine, another pack," Celine said, jaw clenched. They felt the shift. They know the queen has risen. And they're coming to take the throne. "Let them try," Isabella said, surprising even herself with the fire in her voice. Celine turned, eyes wide. Not with disbelief, with something closer to pride. But it didn't last. "You don't understand," she said. "This pack isn't just coming for the throne. They're coming to end the bond. They believe our union is a curse, and they'll kill to stop it." "Then we fight," Isabella said, fire sparking under her skin. "We survive." Celine stared at her. This human girl who had walked into the woods and become something else entirely. And for the first time, the alpha bowed her head not in deference, but in awe. "My queen," she whispered. "They don't know who they're challenging." The forest was restless. Every tree, every stone, every whisper of wind through the leaves felt like it was holding its breath, waiting, watching. Dawn had not yet broken, and already the camp pulsed with tension, wolves sharpening weapons, drawing runes in the dirt, pacing like caged storms beneath the blood-red moon. Isabella stood in the middle of it, barefoot on wet moss, her fingers twitching, jaw clenched. She couldn't sleep, couldn't sit still. Not with the taste of Celine's mouth still burned into hers. Not with the memory of her name, my queen, still ringing in her chest like a war drum. Not with the threat moving ever closer through the trees. Celine hadn't come back to her tent that night. She'd disappeared right after the warning howl, called the elders to a meeting in the inner circle of the ruins. Isabella had wanted to follow her, but Celine had given her a look, not dismissive, but protective. "Trust me. Not everyone in the council sees you as a gift." Now, hours later, Isabella paced outside the stone chamber, heart pounding harder with each raised voice that drifted through the cracks. She's not one of us. She passed the trial. The trial was meant for wolves, not witches. She carries ancient blood. She carries human weakness. She carries power, came Celine's voice, calm and commanding. More than any of you saw coming. And the bond has chosen. That cannot be undone. A crash. Something heavy thrown against stone. Isabella didn't flinch. She was done flinching. Minutes later, the heavy door creaked open and Celine emerged. Her shoulders were squared, her expression unreadable. But when she saw Isabella, something softened in her eyes. Only for her.
"They're divided," she said.
Half believe the bond is a sign of rebirth. The other half believe it's a weakness that will invite ruin. What do you believe? Isabella asked. Celine stepped closer. I believe you were meant to find me. That the bond is sacred. That you're not here by accident. You're here to lead. Even if I'm still learning what I am? Especially because of that, Celine said. This pack has grown arrogant. We've forgotten where we came from. Forgotten what we owe the earth and the moon. You remind them. You scare them. Because you can't be controlled. Neither can you, Isabella said, lips quirking. Celine almost smiled. Almost. But then her gaze flickered over Isabella's shoulder and her mouth tightened. Isabella turned. One of the younger wolves, Mireia, stood frozen, staring at her with a mix of awe and something darker. Is it true? Mireia asked. That you burned the shadows during the trial? I don't know what I did, Isabella admitted. But yes. They bowed. Then it's starting, Mireia murmured. What is? Celine's voice was sharp now. Mireia hesitated. Then she's changing. Can't you feel it? Celine went very still. Her golden eyes met Isabella's, and that's when Isabella realized her hands were hot. Burning, actually. Her fingertips glowed faintly, like embers beneath skin. Celine, she whispered. What's happening to me? Celine's voice was low. Your body is catching up to your soul. The next hours passed in a blur of preparations and silence. The council couldn't be trusted. Celine knew at least one elder. The Los, the scarred male, had sent messages into the forest. To the rival pack. An invitation or a warning, they didn't know. But it reeked of betrayal. Still, Celine didn't confront him. Not yet. Not without proof. And Isabella, she couldn't sit and wait anymore. Her skin itched with something more than nerves. She kept feeling pulses, not pain, not heat, but instinct. She could smell things she shouldn't. Hear breath from tents 20 meters away. The moonlight hurt her eyes, but thrilled her blood. And when she passed the sacred tree, its roots quivered beneath her steps. The bond wasn't just between her and Celine now. It was between her and the land. That night, Celine found her in the lower edge of the camp, kneeling in a pool of silver moonlight, sweat beading at her temples, veins glowing faintly. You should be resting, Celine said. I don't need rest, Isabella whispered. I need answers. I need you. Celine knelt beside her, hands trembling just slightly as they brushed the sweat from her brow. Your body is adapting faster than I thought. The bond is accelerating it. Is it going to kill me? Isabella asked, voice raw. Celine shook her head. No. But it will test you. Break you if you resist it. And if I don't, then it will rebuild you. They stared at each other for a moment too long, until Celine broke it. The other pack will arrive before the next moonrise. We'll have to stand together. As mates. As alpha and queen. What does that mean? Isabella asked. It means a ceremony. A blood binding. If you're ready. And if I'm not. Celine's eyes darkened. Then the pack might fracture. Some may turn against you. And if the enemy arrives and we are not united, they will tear us apart from the inside. Isabella stood, slowly. Her body ached with too many changes, but her spine straightened anyway. Then we don't give them that chance. Celine rose too, their eyes level now. You would bind yourself to me? Isabella smiled. I already am. Before Celine could speak again, a scream tore through the forest. A scout, running, bloody and terrified. "They're here," he gasped. "The Crimson Fangs. They crossed the river. And they brought silver." The name dropped like poison into the air. The Crimson Fangs were not just enemies, they were executioners. A rogue pack exiled generations ago for sacrificial magic, blood hunting, and treason. And they had come for a throne. Celine's hand slipped into Isabella's. "No hesitation." "Then let them come," Celine said, fire blooming in her voice. "They'll learn what it means to challenge fate." Isabella tightened her grip, eyes burning like stars. "And what it means to touch what's mine." They had no time. The Crimson Fangs were already within the forest's heart, leaving a trail of shredded bark and scorched earth behind them, their presence poisoning the wind, making it taste like metal and fear. Celine stood at the center of the camp, her voice sharp as steel, barking orders to her warriors, positioning guards at the sacred boundaries, reinforcing the blood wards carved into the stones. But none of it would be enough, not if the pack wasn't united. Not if the bond between Alpha and Queen remained unsealed. Isabella stood at the edge of the fire circle, heart hammering, chest rising and falling like a storm trapped in human skin. Her veins pulsed with something more than blood now. It felt ancient, endless, like the forest itself had moved into her, filled her with its roots, its fire, its fury.
And Celine?
She couldn't stop looking at her, like she was trying to memorize her before the world ended. "Are you ready?" Celine asked, stepping closer, her hands wrapped in ceremonial leather, a thin blade gleaming at her hip. "No," Isabella said honestly. "But I will be." Celine smiled, not with joy, but with pride, with something fierce and aching. "Then kneel, my queen." The ritual began under the full blood moon, surrounded by the inner circle of wolves who still swore loyalty to Celine, warriors, elders, and younger scouts who had witnessed Isabella's trial and bowed to her survival. They formed a circle, each holding torches, their expressions reverent, expectant, afraid. Isabella knelt before the sacred tree, its roots still wet with offerings from rituals past. Celine stepped into the circle, her voice low and guttural, speaking words in a language that didn't belong to the present. Ancient syllables twisted through the air like smoke. The blade sliced first across Celine's palm, blood dark and thick. Then across Isabella's. She didn't flinch. Not this time. Their hands met, fingers entwining, palms pressed together as the blood mingled. Isabella expected heat.
Pain.
Magic. But what came was something quieter.
Deeper.
A hum beneath her ribs. A second heartbeat. Celine's breath caught, her eyes locked onto Isabella's with sudden intensity. "Do you feel that?" "Yes." The world tilted. The forest blurred. And, in its place, a vision. Not a dream. Not memory. A bond. She saw Celine as a child, running through these woods, her skin torn and her teeth bared. She saw her first shift, the agony of it, the beauty, the loneliness. She saw Celine's scars, the betrayals, the battles, the way she kept her soul locked behind her ribcage like a weapon. And then she saw herself, not how she looked, but how Celine saw her.
Light.
Fury.
Hope.
The one thing in the world that couldn't be commanded, but still came when called. When the vision ended, Isabella gasped and fell forward, and Celine caught her. Their foreheads touched. Their blood dripped into the ground beneath them, and the sacred tree shuddered. A howl tore from the sky, not theirs. A warning. A challenge. Celine stood, pulling Isabella with her. "It's done," she whispered. "You're mine. And I'm yours." Then let them come. But they didn't have to wait long. Screams echoed from the northern ridge. A scout came crashing into the circle, blood streaked down his chest. "They've breached the outer line. We've lost 3. They're coming fast." Celine gave no time for mourning. She turned to her warriors. "Defend the sanctum. Hold the line." Then to Isabella, "Stay here. With the elders. You're not ready for—" "Don't," Isabella snapped. "Don't you dare leave me behind." This isn't a test anymore, Celine said, eyes flashing. This is war. Then let me fight it with you. Something inside her stirred, low and dangerous. You said I was queen. Let me prove it. Celine hesitated, and in that moment, the trees exploded. Wolves burst into the clearing, their eyes crimson, their teeth silver-tipped, their bodies moving like shadows made flesh. The crimson fangs. Celine pushed Isabella behind her, shifting mid-leap, bones snapping, skin tearing, for exploding across muscle. She landed in her wolf form, massive and magnificent, her snarl a song of war. Chaos followed. The clearing erupted into screams and roars. Wolves clashed in midair, fangs flashing, spells bursting at the tree line. Blood splattered the roots of the sacred tree. Isabella stood frozen, until one of them came for her. He wasn't fully shifted, but his face was half wolf, half human, eyes mad with hate. You don't belong here, he hissed. You were never meant to rule. She raised her hands, not in surrender, in fury, and the forest responded. Vines shot from the ground, wrapping around the attacker's legs. Roots twisted up like spears, impaling his thighs, dragging him screaming to the dirt. Isabella stared at her hands, shocked. They glowed, red gold, like embers beneath skin. Something inside her had broken loose. Or awakened. Another wolf lunged, and this time, she didn't hesitate. She moved like wind, ducking beneath claws, striking with force that didn't belong in a human body. She heard the crack of ribs, felt her own bones shift just slightly. Not a full transformation, but enough. Celine fought like a storm unleashed, her body coated in blood, her growls guttural and cold. When her eyes met Isabella's mid-battle, she paused. Just long enough to whisper, "You're changing." Then let me. The air thickened. The sky pulsed red. And from the trees, a new presence emerged. Bigger. Older. Wearing bones as armor and scars like scripture. The alpha of the Crimson Fangs. His voice rolled through the clearing like thunder. You defied the old law. You bonded with a half-blooded witch and dared to call her queen. Celine stood tall, blood dripping from her muzzle. She passed the trial. She bears the bond. And she'll burn this forest to the roots if you touch her. Then let her try, the Crimson Alpha growled. Let me see what your pet really is. Isabella stepped forward, her body trembling, her breath ragged. Her vision doubled, but in her chest, the second heartbeat pulsed like a war drum. She raised her hands. The tree behind her cracked, and the forest held its breath as something ancient pushed to the surface of her skin. She wasn't human anymore. She wasn't wolf. She was something in between. Something new. Something born. The night tore itself open. Chaos ruled the clearing, fangs clashing with steel, spells cracking like thunder in the air, blood painting the moss and bark. The Crimson Fangs were relentless, wolves twisted by hatred and dark ritual, their bodies wrapped in bone charms, their eyes burning red with ancient fury. But it wasn't their savagery that made the forest tremble. It was Isabella. She stood at the heart of it all, breath heaving, her fingers glowing like embers, her pupils blown wide as a second heartbeat pounded beneath her skin. Not Celine's, not her own. Something else. Something older. The sacred tree behind her groaned, bark splitting as roots pulsed with her power. She didn't understand what was happening. She only knew this. Celine was fighting beside her, and no one would take her away. The Crimson Alpha stepped forward, tall as a god, his form half-shifted, ribcage exposed beneath jagged armor, his voice soaked in mockery. So this is the queen. Glowing fingers and no claws. The bond must be desperate indeed. You want claws? Isabella whispered, the heat in her blood building like pressure in a fault line. Then bleed for them. Her hand snapped forward, and the ground erupted. Vines twisted into spears, dirt cracked into fire, and the Alpha barely dodged a blast of raw, wild energy that left a crater where he stood. Celine turned, eyes wide with something between awe and terror. You need to slow down, she growled, shifting back into her human form, blood slicking her arms. You're not ready. They're going to kill us if I don't do something. Isabella snapped. I can't control it, Celine. I don't know how. Then let me help you. Their hands touched, and for a second, the chaos around them dimmed. The bond flared, a bridge between them. Celine poured calm through it, grounded her. But something inside Isabella twisted in resistance. Don't tame me, it growled. Unleash me. And she did. She let go. Her scream wasn't human. Her body arched, and light exploded from her chest, washing across the clearing like a tidal wave of heat. Wolves staggered. The crimson fangs howled in pain. The sacred tree pulsed with it, its leaves turning black, its roots glowing red. And when the light faded, Isabella stood in the center of a ring of scorched earth, her clothes in tatters, her skin marked with glowing lines that looked like ancient runes carved from within. Her eyes, no longer brown, golden, just like Celine's. You shifted, Celine whispered, stepping back as if in reverence. But not into a wolf. I don't think I'm supposed to, Isabella said. Her voice was deeper now, layered. I think I'm something else. The battle surged again, but this time it turned in their favor. Isabella moved through the enemy, like flame through dry grass. She didn't fight like a wolf, she fought like a force of nature. The forest itself seemed to respond to her, bending, opening, aiding. The ground moved where she stepped, the trees protected her flank, the air bent to her will. She was becoming something the Crimson Fangs had no name for. Something that belonged to no prophecy. Something new. But power always comes at a price. And hers came fast. After 30 minutes of unrelenting energy, something cracked inside her. Her vision blurred. The runes on her skin flickered. Her knees buckled. Celine caught her just as a Crimson Fang tried to land a killing blow. They hit the ground together. Stay with me, Celine whispered, holding her tightly. I'm here, Isabella said, but her voice was thin, distant. Just tired. You gave too much. They were going to take you, Isabella murmured. I couldn't let them. Celine cradled her face. You have to hold on. This isn't over. The Crimson Alpha, wounded but not dead, snarled as he stepped toward them. You think you've won? That this abomination is the future? She's a disease. She's your reckoning, Celine said coldly. And she's mine. But before the Alpha could attack, something inside Isabella snapped. Not in pain, in surrender. To whatever it was that had awakened. Her body spasmed. Her mouth parted.
And she roared.
Not a howl. A roar, primal, layered with power so ancient the air itself bent under it. The Alpha staggered. The ground split beneath him. And from Isabella's body came not light, but shadow. It coiled around her like armor, wrapping her in the form of a creature not seen for centuries. Half-wolf, half-witch, all queen. The Crimson Alpha lunged, and Isabella didn't move. The earth moved for her. The roots of the sacred tree burst from the ground, impaling him midair, wrapping his body in thorns until he was suspended like a rag doll in the wind. He snarled. He bled. And then he was gone. Silence. The Crimson Fangs broke, scattered, vanished into the forest like ghosts. The battle was over. Celine knelt beside her again. Isabella's body was trembling, soaked in sweat and blood. She blinked up at Celine. Did we win? You became the victory, Celine said softly. But I don't know what it cost. Neither do I, Isabella whispered. But I felt it. All of it. The forest. The pack.
You.
I think I'm more now. But I don't know how to come back from it. You don't have to come back, Celine said, brushing hair from her face. You have to rise. Just like the queen you were born to be. Behind them, the surviving wolves slowly dropped to their knees. One by one. They didn't howl. They didn't cheer. They bowed. And the forest, now soaked in moonlight and silence, recognized its new sovereign. Not a wolf. Not a witch. But something born from blood, bond, and battle. A queen unlike any before. She awoke gasping. Not from pain, from memory. Her hands clawed at the dirt beneath her, fingertips burning, skin damp with sweat, and something thicker.
Blood.
Not hers. Not Celine's. All around her, the forest breathed like a beast freshly fed. The battle was over. The earth had swallowed the enemy. But Isabella had not returned untouched. She sat up slowly, her bones creaking like the roots of old trees, her lungs tight with power. Her eyes, golden, glowing, scanned the clearing. The sacred tree was still pulsing faintly, as if it remembered her roar. Her skin shimmered with faint, flickering runes, not carved on her body, but pulsing beneath it. "You're awake," Celine's voice came from behind her, and when Isabella turned, it hit her. The exhaustion in Celine's frame, the dried blood on her neck, and something else. Caution. "You've been out for 2 days," Celine continued, kneeling beside her. "Your body was still changing." "It's still changing," Isabella whispered, staring at her hands. "I feel everything. The roots under us. The wolves beyond the hills. I even feel you, Celine. Every breath you take." "That's the bond," Celine said gently. "It deepened with the battle." "No," Isabella said. "It's more than the bond. It's the land, the forest, the bloodline. I'm not just linked to you anymore. I'm linked to everything." Silence. Celine didn't respond. She only watched her with that same flicker of fear hidden deep beneath her love. Isabella stood, shaky but steady, and looked around. Wolves watched her from the shadows. The survivors. The loyal. And some not so loyal. They bowed when she passed, but their eyes said what their mouths wouldn't. "She's not one of us. Not really. And worse, she's becoming something else." "They're afraid of me," Isabella said quietly. "You scared them," Celine admitted. "What you did to the alpha of the Crimson Fangs, that wasn't just war. It was annihilation. He would have killed you." "I know." Celine stepped closer. "I'm not afraid. But they are. And now the council knows. The alphas of the old blood have felt your rise. And they're sending envoys." Isabella's heart skipped. "For what?" "To decide if you're allowed to reign." "Allowed." Her voice sharpened. "After I saved this forest? After I kept this pack from being wiped out?" "They don't see it that way," Celine said, her jaw tight. "To them, you're a violation. The laws were written before your blood remembered what it was. And now they'll challenge that, one way or another." "Let them come," Isabella growled. But even as she said it, a tremor shook her spine, because something else was coming, too. That night, as the camp rebuilt and the wounded licked their wounds, Isabella couldn't rest. Her body was restless, her mind louder than ever, and the visions began. They didn't come like dreams, they came like warnings. She saw fire racing through the forest, wolves turning on each other. Celine chained herself, standing in front of the sacred tree, screaming as her skin cracked like stone. A crown of thorns, a blade through her chest. "No," she whispered, staggering back from the fire. "No, that's not real." "What did you see?" Celine was there instantly, grabbing her by the shoulders. "Tell me." Isabella's voice broke. "They're coming to kill me, not judge me. I won't let them. You may not have a choice." "I always have a choice when it comes to you," Celine growled. "They'd have to go through me." "You don't understand, Celine," Isabella said, stepping back. "It's not just the council. It's something older. Something that doesn't want me here. Something inside me that isn't done growing." And then her knees gave out. Celine caught her before she hit the ground, arms wrapping tight. Isabella shook against her, sweat soaking her skin. "I can't hold it back anymore," she whispered. "This power, it's devouring me." Celine kissed her forehead. "Then let me help carry it." The next day, the envoys arrived. Clad in black robes, 3 alphas stepped into the clearing like judges, walking onto sacred ground. 1 male, 2 women. Their scent was old, their eyes emotionless, their words sharp. "We felt the bond," said the tallest woman, her voice like flint. And the magic it unleashed. You are unnatural. She is necessary, Selene snapped. She is queen by blood and by battle. Then prove it, the other woman said. Under moonlight. Before the pack. A ritual of reckoning. What happens if she refuses? Selene growled. Then she dies, the male said. And the throne reverts to the line of wolves. That night, a ring was drawn in blood around the sacred tree. The entire pack circled the clearing, allies, enemies, the wounded, the unsure. And in the center, Isabella stepped forward. Alone, the alphas stood across from her. This is not a trial of strength, the lead woman said. This is a trial of soul, of balance. We will enter your mind. We will see the truth of what you are. Selene tried to move toward her, but a barrier stopped her. No, it must be done alone, the envoy said. Isabella met Selene's eyes. If I don't come back, you will. If I lose myself, then I'll find you, Selene said. I swear it. The alphas placed their hands on Isabella's shoulders, and the world vanished. Isabella was somewhere else, a place made of ash and memory. She saw herself in mirrors, 1,000 reflections, each warped. In one, she was a wolf with no eyes. In another, a girl burning. In another, a queen bleeding into a throne of bones. You are not balance, the voices said. You are chaos. You are love turned weapon. You are flame in a house of dry leaves. You are the end. But another voice, quieter, spoke up. From within.
No.
I am the beginning. And then she roared. Not in fear. In defiance. She shattered the mirrors. Burned the voices. And stepped forward as herself. Not witch, not wolf. Just Isabella. The queen who chose everything. When she opened her eyes, the clearing was silent. The alphas stood, stunned. And then they knelt. The bond holds, one whispered. The power does not consume her. She is not a curse. She is a rebirth. Selene was in front of her in seconds, hands on her face, eyes frantic. You came back. I never left, Isabella whispered. And this time, when she kissed Selene, it wasn't hunger or fear. It was a promise. The forest howled in approval. And the queen stood, still trembling, but unshakable. They began to come at dusk. Not enemies. Not allies. Witnesses. From the edge of the forest and the mountains beyond, wolves emerged in silence, not attacking, not challenging, only watching. They didn't bow. Not yet. But they came. Because something in the world had shifted, and her name, Isabella, now carried weight across lands that hadn't spoken to Selene's pack in centuries. The queen who bled runes. The half-wolf who commanded trees and flame. The human who returned from the trial of soul untouched. Unbroken. Chosen. But while the world came to see her, Isabella wasn't sleeping. Not anymore. Every night, the visions came, darker now. Not warnings. Memories. But they weren't hers. She saw women cloaked in bone ash, kneeling in circles beneath moons so full they bled. She saw forests devoured by fire. Wolves ripping out their own hearts. A girl who looked like her, screaming as golden eyes turned black. She woke in sweat, body pulsing, runes flickering like dying stars on her skin. And Selene noticed. You don't eat, Selene said one morning as they walked the perimeter. You barely speak. You're fading. I'm burning, Isabella corrected. There's too much inside me now. I don't know where I end and this power begins. Selene reached for her hand, held it gently. Then we find the boundary together. What if there isn't one? Isabella whispered. What if I'm becoming something I can't come back from? Then I'll walk into the fire with you, Selene said. And it sounded like a promise. Like a vow. Like love. But that night, something changed. The sacred tree, which had once pulsed warmly near Isabella, wept black sap. And the wind, the one that used to sing through the leaves, screamed. The elders noticed first. The wards are failing, one whispered. The forest is warning us. Of what? Of her, said another, Eyes turned toward Isabella. Something is waking inside her, and it's older than all of us. Celine silenced them, but doubt had already taken root. That same night, Isabella stood alone before the tree. The bark had split, a black gash in the trunk, leaking dark sap like blood. When she touched it, everything broke.
She fell.
Not to the ground, into memory. Not hers. The first queen. The one born of the first blood bond. A woman not remembered, not worshipped, erased. She had power like Isabella, magic like the land. But she had been betrayed by her mate, by her council, by the forest itself. Her body was sealed beneath the roots of the first sacred tree. Her name forgotten. Her soul buried alive. And now, through Isabella, she was clawing back to the surface. "You wear my crown," the ancient queen's voice whispered in the dark. "You carry my curse." "I'm not you," Isabella said. "I won't become you. You already are." Isabella snapped awake, screaming, her skin blazing with dark fire. The ground beneath her cracked. Celine found her seconds later, eyes wild, her body glowing with alpha fury. "What happened?" "I saw her," Isabella choked. "The first one. She's inside the tree. And she's waking through me." Celine's face went pale. There's a reason that story was buried. She wasn't just betrayed. She was banished. Because she tried to become more than queen. She wanted to be goddess. "She was alone," Isabella said. "No one stood with her." "You're not her," Celine said, clutching her face. "You have me." "But she has me, too," Isabella whispered. "She's inside me. And I think she wants me to finish what she started."
Celine didn't speak. Couldn't.
Because she'd felt it, too, for weeks.
The pull.
The tremor. The way the forest bent to Isabella's will like a creature remembering its first queen. And deep down, Celine had been afraid. Not of losing Isabella. Of losing who she was to something ancient and unstoppable. Days passed. The forest darkened. Wolves whispered. Some began to leave. Others bowed lower than before. And one night, Isabella stood atop the stone altar, her skin glowing faintly in the moonlight, eyes blazing gold. "They don't know if they should follow me or fear me," she said. "And I don't know if they're wrong." Celine stepped beside her. "Then give them both.
Give them awe.
But don't give them a reason to doubt your heart." Isabella turned. "What if the heart isn't mine anymore?" Celine's hand gripped her waist. "Then I'll fight to get it back. Even if it kills me." That night, thunder rolled over the forest. But no storm followed. Only silence. And in the heart of the woods, the sacred tree cracked open. From the hollow roots, something stepped forward.
Pale.
Golden-eyed. Wearing a crown of thorns and ash. The first queen. Not just in vision now.
Real.
The power inside Isabella had split. And now it had a face. Celine felt it. The entire pack felt it. Every wolf dropped to the ground, paralyzed by instinct. And Isabella, standing in the moonlight, whispered just 2 words. "She's here." The final battle wouldn't be against a rival pack. It wouldn't be against doubt, or tradition, or blood. It would be against herself. Against the past that had chosen her. Against the soul that wanted to wear her skin like a crown. The forest held its breath. Not from fear, from recognition. Every leaf, every stone, every shadow in the trees remembered the power that had just stepped from beneath the sacred roots. The first queen, tall, pale as starlight, crowned in ash and thorns, stood at the edge of the clearing. Her gaze was ancient, endless. Her eyes, golden and wild, locked onto Isabella like they'd been waiting centuries for her to arrive. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Isabella felt her in her bones. In the pull of her blood. In the ache behind her ribs where her own heart had once belonged. Celine stood between them, blade drawn, body tense with instinct. But this wasn't a battle she could win with teeth or steel. "She's part of me," Isabella whispered, voice hollow. "No," Celine said firmly, eyes locked on the entity before them. "She wants to be, but that doesn't mean she is." She gave me power. No, Celine said again, stepping closer. You gave her a door, and now she wants to walk through it and never leave. The first queen smiled. It was slow, sharp, devastating. She stepped forward, not walking but gliding, her feet barely brushing the earth. The wolves in the clearing dropped to their knees, some whimpering, others growling, too torn between instinct and loyalty to move. You burned your enemies, the queen's voice echoed in Isabella's mind, as cold as the void. You woke the forest. You commanded the pack. They bowed. They obeyed. That is not love. That is sovereignty. I didn't ask for that, Isabella said, voice shaking. But you used it, the queen countered. You tasted what it's like to be more. You let the land sing through your veins. And it liked you. I'm not you, Isabella whispered. No, the queen agreed. You're better. You can finish what I began. You can unchain this world from the alphas, from blood oaths, from weakness disguised as tradition. They call it balance. I call it fear. Isabella stepped back, breath faltering. You were betrayed. Yes, the queen said. And now, I claim you as my heir. Let me rise through you. Let us reign together. And then Isabella felt it, the final choice. Not between good and evil, not even between power and love, but between becoming the weapon of the past or forging a future no one had dared imagine. You don't have to fight her, Celine whispered at her side. You don't even have to defeat her. But you have to choose you, Bella. The one who walked into this forest terrified and still stayed. The one who kissed me like I was worth saving. The one I chose, long before any crown or bloodline. Isabella turned to her. And in Celine's eyes, there was no fear. Only belief. Only love. And suddenly, the noise, the fire, the pull, it stopped. She stepped forward. The first queen snarled. Bow, girl. Bow, and I will give you eternity. I don't want eternity, Isabella said. I want freedom. I want love. I want something that's mine, not yours. Not theirs. Mine. The queen lunged, and Isabella let her. She didn't raise her hands.
Didn't scream.
She opened herself, not in surrender, but in truth. And when the queen touched her, she didn't take over.
She merged.
For a second, the world exploded. Wolves cried out. Trees twisted toward the sky. Fire and ash and root and bone all surged into one form. Not the first queen, not the human girl, but something holy, fiercely new. A golden glow spread across the clearing. And when it faded, Isabella stood alone. Taller, stronger, glowing from within, but herself. No crown, no thorns.
Just scars and choice.
It's done, she said, turning to Celine. She's part of me, but she doesn't rule me. Celine ran to her, cupped her face, kissed her like the world was watching, and didn't care. And the pack howled. Not in fear. In devotion.
In awe. In joy.
Days passed. Then weeks. No more visions. No more invaders. The forest bloomed brighter than it had in generations. The sacred tree healed, sap now golden, the roots no longer weeping. Isabella and Celine ruled side by side, not through domination, but through bond, through fire and gentleness, through wounds they didn't hide, and love they never apologized for. Some wolves left, too afraid of change, but more arrived. New blood, new hope. The world was different now.